if you want to drive big change, you have to do it in an organized, coherent manner so these people don't freak out. The industry doesn't freak out, and the residents don't freak out.
Okay, this is going to be fun. So today I get to interview another one of my favorite people in this company, Alan, who I've been friends with for now it's coming in what, like 21 years or something like that.
Yeah.
I got to meet Alan actually the first community living experience, American community living experience we had in the suburbs of Miami, very close by. Alan, welcome.
Thanks, Carlos. Thanks for having me. 21 years and counting. Had shorter hair, longer hair back then.
Yeah, we've changed for sure. I've been friends with Alan since my high school years, I think, and then we were fortunate enough to be to study together at UM. And now, fast forward a few years, and we're able to call each other co-founders at this company we like to call ONR. Alan, maybe why don't you tell us a little bit about your role as the CEO, as COO, if you wish. Alan, why don't you tell us a little bit about your role as the COO here at ONR, and maybe a little bit of a story of how we got started.
That's cool. So thanks for having me. It's been a while. This story is a story of just having a little bit of fun every day trying to solve small problems that have turned out into about 6 years worth of a really, really cool journey. So excited to be here and talk a little bit about where we're coming from, Carlos, and hopefully where we're going. And of course, spending time with everyone that can listen to us and understand that we're here not just to do what we do, but rather do it for everyone here. So thanks for joining.
Well, COO, what does that mean? What do you do at ONR? How do you help us stay afloat? And how do you keep our staff safe from a crazy CEO?
Yeah, so that's a good question. It's a mix of, like I said, big tasks and big things with making sure that the details are working. One of the biggest challenges any company has when they're starting is making sure that things actually get done. So inevitably, if you don't have good ideas, it's really hard to get started. And there's idea people out there, but there's also people of action. And sometimes you just need to do the things or hire people and help them do the things that the company needs. Everything from making sure that there's water in the fridge to making sure that we actually have the resources and the tools in place for people to sell. And more importantly, in a company like ours, which I think it's actually my favorite piece, is how can we make sure that the tool that we're using is actually working for people that want to use it? Because at the end of the day, if ONR, quote unquote, goes down, there's a lot of people that are going to be affected.
Okay, wow. So that's a big challenge. Keeping the fridge full. Well, That sounds like a big challenge.
Step one.
I guess it also means making sure that that we have the staff to materialize our vision. Number two was keeping the tight ship running and making sure that the operations are, working and everything is working. And then number three sounds like a big challenge, making sure that this app that now is being used by about 450,000 people stays on and continues to work. And I guess I would add to that, you also make sure that the tools that we use internally within ONR work and connect with each other. So it's like a big challenge, bro.
Yeah. Cheers to that.
Cheers, well, Alan has been not only my friend, my co-founder for many years, but also the person that keeps us sane. There is a lot of insanity in community management, as you all know, and steady hand is needed. And Alan has always been a steady hand, a very good partner when it comes to making decisions that are not necessarily made, in the spur of the moment or, within a few seconds, but rather taking the time and doing, getting to that decision with the time that it takes to be the most successful or the best decision in terms of the outcome and not necessarily the decision that we take the fastest. So Alan, thank you for that. And I think it's because you have been a chess player your entire life.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely chess. I didn't know we were going to bring up chess in this interview. I don't want to be perceived just as a chess player, but I do love chess.
You're an engineer as well, so
fair enough.
First an engineer, then a chess player.
Maybe an engineer helped a little, but the thing is, in this industry, unlike some of the other industries, volatility is not appreciated by anyone in the ecosystem. So we're not dealing with and selling software to small operations. We're talking about a few hundred people that get accustomed to doing things in a certain way. And when you're introducing change, be it at the business development level or even at the way that people are using our product in these associations, you can't jerk it. And I feel that that's unfortunately the reason why not many innovators have come into this industry to begin with. It's because if you want to drive big change, you have to do it in an organized, coherent manner so these people don't freak out. The industry doesn't freak out and the residents don't freak out. So thanks for saying that. It's a little bit of a balancing act.
It sure is. We started off in 2016 as Voter. That was our first sort of iteration of the software. Voter 2016, when the Florida law, the legislation changes to allow for online voting, to require a document repository for condos and HOAs. I believe that was because one of our friends at UN told us, he became a lawyer, Alan became an engineer, and I became a salesperson, of course. He told us about the legislation and new changes in the law, and we decided to take a stab at this thing. Do you remember what happened and how we started off, and what was going through your mind at the time? To maybe give the story to the audience of how it came to be.
Yeah, so I think that's a great question. It's the story of people that instead of complaining, decided to take action. Because just like many other people out there that like to get involved, that want to make sure that they influence what's happening in their condo or their home, I got very involved in my association. You got very involved in your association. We had this thing in common. And what became evident is that you can't get things done because the systems are just not there. They were so dated. You looked at the systems that were being used to manage these buildings and these homes, and you compared it to what banks were doing at the time, or even what hospitals were doing at the time, and it was night and day. So, more specifically, it was about getting people to vote, so I could actually change the ugly railings in my building. So it's a little bit, that was the first use case. Very specific, but quickly realizing that it's a more pervasive problem than that. And getting people to actually participate and vote was a great way to get started in engaging with these communities.
Certainly was. So we started off as online voting, 2016. A few years later, when our co-founder Nico joins the team and starts to help us create a broader vision of what the owner and resident experience should be, we start creating ONR, right? I mean, from voter to owner. ONR, owners and residents. And now you're dealing a lot with management teams, management companies. What are the challenges that you feel that these companies have today? As we get into 2024, how can they better navigate those challenges?
It's a good question. So
of course, it's a good question. I only ask good questions.
Appreciate that. Listen, management companies, I certainly don't envy you because it's a really tough gig. You're caught between delivering exceptional service, and every year that is pushed what that means, right? So every year people want more concierge services, they want more of a hospitality experience for the same money, which is a challenging piece. And a few years ago, I believe that a lot of these companies tapped out when it came to tools to give to these managers. I mean, to a certain extent, managers, staff members, assistant managers spend a lot of time doing very much grunt work. And that does not leave them time to do anything else. I know that they're trying to push the line, and I know there's a few people in the ecosystem like ourselves trying to help them and give them tools to do that. But I think as they start embracing some of the newer technology out there, some of the artificial intelligence, some of the automation that a lot of the people are starting to think about and put together and weave into the products, we're going to see the industry totally change from managing the property to really just spending most of the time managing the community itself.
Okay, so manage property, facilities, and the services that are being offered to the community, managing the community, that hospitality-like experience, the communication with residents, with owners, and now all of a sudden we find ourselves into managing the office, and getting into touch a little bit of the back office experience.
But think about this: the challenge is now you're spending more time with the resident, but there's also an opportunity there, and I think a lot of management companies are realizing that they can monetize the actual resident themselves. They don't have to sell higher prices to associations. It's a very competitive game. Margins are laser thin. If you increase too much your price, you're going to lose it to your neighbor. What if you could monetize the user? Right? So a lot of our management companies that we're talking to, they're thinking about creative ways of doing that and having revenue share with people that are willing to give them the tools to be able to enable that.
It's important, making sure that more services are available and hopefully more sources of revenue for management companies out there trying to provide better experiences to homeowners and residents.
So the three things that I think management companies really struggle with, three things we like. Number one is retention of their property and their staff members. Big problem, especially if the manager takes all their knowledge with them. Hint. Number two, very laser thin margins. So finding ways of monetizing their communities in different ways is, I think, the most important thing, because if not, it's about the bottom line.
More than monetizing is driving value, right? I mean,
they go hand in hand, right? So people are willing to pay for convenience, and I think there's a big opportunity for that. And management companies have a great opportunity to do so because they have the ability to introduce services to a lot of people at once. And I think the third thing that management companies are struggling with today is they have too many systems. And it's a nightmare to manage with 20 different platforms. And I think the big challenge is, how are they going to simplify that and make the manager experience a better experience if they want to keep quality people on their properties?
So management experience enhanced means owners' experiences are enhanced because better services are being provided, less time is being spent on the data entry and nitty-gritty, from the management perspective, allowing more services or more service time to be available. Makes sense. Alan, let me ask you something. So now we know that you as a COO help us to run a tight ship, making sure that our tool is always available. So it's kind of a CTO role internally. So our tools internally within ONR, but also our ONR as an application is available to our residents and our staff. And you have a large team. I know that one of the things that you have always helped us with is ensuring that remote teams are able to work in the same manner as if they were sitting here at the office, to ensure that the communication continuously flow within our teams, to make sure that our systems are connected. On that systems being connected, what is the role that you see systems from other third-party software vendors being connected to ONR to service associations to better serve communities playing a role?
Yeah, so there's a power in working with an ecosystem. And that speaks, that holds true for companies like ourselves, that we want to make sure that the tools that we use internally can speak to each other. And it holds even more true when you're using these tools to deliver the service externally. So if, for example, you're a management company, you want to make sure that your billing software talks to your payment collection server. I mean, if they don't, it doesn't sound important, but it's really important, because if not, you're finding yourself reconciling. And every time you're growing your business, you're going to spend more time doing that as well. So you're never going to get away from that cost. You want to make sure that your service requests that your residents put in are able to speak to your tasks and your work orders for your staff. Again, it's about making it easy. And we like to talk about being very efficient with movement, because here at ONR, arguably, we have a smaller staff compared to some of the other peers in the market that we compete with and collaborate with. So we have to be very, very smart about what everyone is doing and the effort. And I get inspired always, if you guys have seen the movie Founders, by the McDonald's story and how the whole thing got started. The reason why McDonald's became McDonald's, of course, they had delicious food and they had a great service, but it was really about how efficient the kitchen was. and how quickly they could turn off orders and how much they could lower the cost because they could do this so efficiently. And I think it's easy to always think about how do I grow my business? How do I sell more? But if you spend some time really thinking about how can I make it more efficient and how can I make more money with what I have today, you're going to be pleasantly surprised. And a lot of management companies are starting to look at that.
As an engineer, you help us to stay on top of that, making sure that we stay efficient, that our software is efficient and drives that value, making management companies, management professionals more efficient in their day-to-day. I've always said it, I've worked with you for now about like 12 years, 14 years, but we've been friends for
Something like
20. And I've always said it, you are definitely one of my mentors. I get to call you my co-founder and I get to call you my friend. So I thank you for that. Please keep driving innovation. I hope we get to do this more often, bro.
Yeah, great coffee.
Well,
Thanks.
yeah, right. Coffee.